Welcome to Root Shock. I'm Hannah Titus, a holistic health specialist, yoga instructor, and earth-based somatic practitioner. This solo sode is about breath, about the trees, about the water, and the air we breathe every day. I wanted to do this mini-sode today because so many of my yoga students and my peers ask me what I mean when I so often say that each breath is a collaboration. What does that mean? Why do I always say it? You know, we live in a very individualistic world where we're taught to put on our own oxygen mask before assisting others, where we're taught to regulate and control the bounds of our own physical container, our own psychology, our own body before reaching out to others, where we understand our own biology as a set of discrete systems, right? Where we break down medicine according to chemical constituents, anatomical shapes, physiological processes that have discrete and distinguishable names. And these are all useful, very useful ways that we make sense of a very complex world. But in reality, you never breathe alone. Nothing you do is ever alone. Always we are in connectedness and collaboration with every layer of our environment. You are home to trillions upon trillions, uncountable other beings, the microbiota, the flora that live in your own gut, that live in your own armpit, that live behind your ear. Your consciousness, your mind is the host to an entire community inside your own body. And just so, you are a community member on this planet and in the environment that you are a part of. There is no separation. We are a part of each other on a very fundamental biological level. And many, many layers of significance beyond that biology. So what do I mean by that? By each breath being a collaboration? Here's one. Picture a tree. Maybe you're sitting in front of one right now or can see one from where you are. You follow that trunk of the tree down, down, down to where it meets the earth. And you know where it enters the earth, there are roots, deep branching roots that lock themselves into the structure, nourishment, and enriching proteins and minerals in the soil. Roots that call water up from underneath the earth and draw that water up the spine of the tree and out towards its many, many branches. And at the end of those branches are leaves, uncountable leaves. Leaves you couldn't even count if you tried. And all of those leaves have their own branches, their own tiny little pores called stomata. The stomata, the pores of these leaves, are where oxygen is released from the tree. Because you see, the tree is always breathing. We call it photosynthesis, we call it something different, but it's breathing. The tree is taking in water from the earth, water from the environment of the rain. It's taking in CO2 that animals like you and I are breathing out. And it's using what is a waste product to us to fuel its growth, its life, its vitality. And in a beautiful exchange of resources, this tree is inhaling our waste, our CO2. And as it takes in that carbon dioxide, the tree is exhaling oxygen, O2, releasing oxygen through the stomata, through the pores of the leaves. And as we take a breath in, we receive that oxygen and it travels down our trachea, down our airway, whose ribbed cylindrical edges look a whole lot like the trunk of a tree. And as we breathe that oxygen down our tree trunk, it expands through the branches of our lungs, one on the left, one on the right, branching through the bronchial tree to smaller and smaller and smaller branches. And what do we have at the end of our branches? We have alveoli. We have 2 million of them, one on the left and another million on the right. And just the same as the tree leaves, our alveoli are a place of exchange, gaseous exchange. These are the sites where the oxygen that we breathe in is exchanged from the bloodstream with the carbon dioxide we're breathing out. At every breath we take, there is an exchange between the tree and I, and an exchange at the site of transaction within my own body, within our own lungs. When we breathe oxygen in, breath travels all the way to our alveoli. And this is why breath technique and breath work and the pranayama that I teach is so important, because most humans are just breathing from the chest up. We're breathing from the top 1/3 of our lungs, but our alveoli extend all the way down to the bottom, all the way out to the sides, and even to the back of our lungs. So a lot of what we learn in breath techniques in yoga class or outside of yoga class is about how to breathe in to each and every leaf of the tree of our own lungs, which is life. When molecules of oxygen, of O2, travel to one of the alveoli, an exchange occurs. The capillaries that are moving blood all around your lungs and body send off and deposit some CO2 in your lungs, and they trade some oxygen. That oxygen encounters it. It jumps away from the leaves of your alveoli, and it encounters the river of blood that is flowing by. There, the oxygen hops on an inner tube of hemoglobin, which is how oxygen is transported all around our bloodstream. It hops on an inner tube of hemoglobin, and it rides the lazy river of blood all the way back to the heart. This oxygen-rich blood that came from the tree of our lungs then is cycled through the heart. And the heart, as a loving, constant, consistent, stable, adaptive, brilliant conductor, distributes that life-giving blood that's full of enriching oxygen throughout our body to every cell that needs it. And in this way, we breathe life into our cells. This life we've breathed in, of course it's a collaboration. Every breath you take was in concert with the trees. And by extension, both you and the tree are sourced by the water all around you, by the earth underneath you, giving you support and nourishment, by the fire within both of you to fuel these transactions. With every breath you take, you're not just taking in air molecules. You're also taking in water from your environment. I love the way that Dr. Leanne Simpson puts this in her book about Anishinaabe wisdom, Theory of Water. She describes how every breath we take contains water, and we have every reason to believe that all of the water that is in circulation right now is the same water that has been in circulation since the beginning of time. That is so precious to understand, that all of the water circulating now in the air around me, in the bodies of the trees around me, in my own body, that all of this water is the same water that has been circulating since the beginning of time, combining and recombining with other elements, changing form from frozen to gas to liquid to earthbound to skybound to human-bound to animal-bound. This same water has been weaving in and out of your body and my body and their bodies since time immemorial. So how amazing is it that this water now gets to experience being me? That I get to experience being water. The water inside your body is a closely regulated process. Because for your lungs to have balance, right? Everything is balance. Your body is an expert, a conscious, aware expert at how to maintain balance, homeostasis. So water is necessary in the lungs. We need the pleura of the lungs to stay moist, right? If we didn't have the pleural casings of the lungs, they would get all sticky and it'd be hard for them to collapse and expand as they need to. The lungs stay lubricated so that the flow continues always, even while you sleep. But now we don't want the lungs to get too fluid filled, then disease states occur. Yes? And yet we cannot control the water makeup of everything around us, right? Just like in so many paths of life, we can't control the way that the world's gonna be. The world isn't always in balance. The environment isn't always in balance. Sometimes we're on a dry mountain peak or a dry desert. Sometimes we're in a rich rainforest or a steam sauna and everything is thick. And so our body needs to find ways to regulate that water. It does so through starling forces, a combination of osmosis and filtration, of hydrostatic arrangements of different blood pressure, and oncotic forces, which are when proteins, little pals, pull water molecules along with them across a gradient. Sometimes the body uses aquaporins, water channels, to let the pipes flow water in and out. Water has so many ways to move. The water will always move. And what's so beautiful is our bodies have developed so many different techniques for maintaining an intricate balance of water moment to moment. And so when we take a breath, when we take a breath, it's a dance. It's a dance of the water in the air. It's a dance between the trees and the other oxygen processing species and plants around us. It's a dance with all the other living things that are breathing along with us, that are exhaling CO2 to our tree friends as well. It's the water that is moving through all things, big and small. This is what I mean when I say every breath is a collaboration. And when we remember that, so much opens up. So much opens up. How many of us have cried on bathroom floors, kitchen floors, bedroom floors? How many of us have cried at our own loneliness? Yeah. It's so human. It's so human to be lonely. And we live in a very lonely world. We live in a world and a dominant culture that enforces loneliness and separation and enforces it as an act of violence upon a people, a humanity that is meant to be social, that is meant to be in community. Yeah? If you are in a human skin suit, you are a social being by nature, which means people need people. We need them to survive. It's how this little body that we're in is built, to survive in community, in collaboration in others. And because we're existing within a system that does not facilitate healthy community, we have to learn how to cultivate healthy community within and between ourselves. And I'm a big believer that our breath and our relationships with the land, with the trees, with the animals, with the grass, with the soil, with the water, with the air, that's a part of it. That is a part of what it means to cultivate that sense of community. When we tune in to breath as a collaboration, when we practice breath as something that is beyond our individual selves, when we recognize that everything we do is in collaboration with a greater whole, not only do we reap proximate and acute benefits of nervous system relaxation, of strengthening the muscles of the diaphragm, of strengthening our lung capacity and our ability to breathe a little deeper, when we strengthen our capacity to tolerate CO2 in the body, to strengthen our ability to breathe with more patience, with more depth, we do all of these things, and all of these things benefit us right here. But what we also do is we learn humility. We learn that I can't do anything alone, not even breathe. And when we learn the humility of our intrinsic interconnectedness, when we understand the humility of everything I do is in concert with all of the rest of life, we respect it. Because then we can understand balance. Then we can understand giving and receiving. Then we can understand reciprocity, the cyclic, natural act of I give you my breath, you give me your breath, and the cycle continues on and on and on. That is sustainability. That is reciprocity. That is right relationship, is opening our eyes, ears, and hearts and breath and lungs to the balance of things. And when we can embody that somatically, right? When we get into a practice of breathing with the understanding of collaboration and connectedness, I really believe that that somatic experiential truth can then extend to all things. Because then you are attuned to when things are not in balance. Then you become really attuned to when the air is no longer clean and it's hurting you and it's hurting the trees and it's hurting everybody else. How do we restore balance to that air? Then we become attuned to when the situation is making your heart pound and you're breathing shallow and you can't reach those leaves at the very, very bottom of your lungs. And then you realize, oh, something about this situation or my response to it is out of balance. How do I return? How do I restore balance? And it's in this way that I really do believe that the ways that we heal, the ways that we recognize healing as a way of being, is something that necessarily extends beyond the self and extends in community. The act of regulating my own nervous system, for helping myself breathe deeper, for helping myself calm down. When I practice that, I can show up and I can co-regulate with a loved one who I notice breathing shallow, who I notice freaking out, even if their words are calm. I notice when it's just a breath in the chest, and I, in that moment, can co-regulate with them. Right? A co-regulation is synchronizing our breaths, our heartbeats to the same tempo. And when I have practiced this in my own personal practice, I can share it, breathing low and slow and helping a loved one breathe with me and calm through the process. And in that way, we build strong, supportive, healing community. Just so, it naturally follows, it absolutely naturally follows that if this healing becomes your practice, you will feel it so much more intimately when injustices against the earth are perpetrated. Because when you see extractive, exploitative processes taking place, when you see environmental degradation taking place, you will feel it in your own body because you recognize your body as inseparable from the bodies of those trees, soil, and water that is being disrespected. And I believe that that connection is necessary, that it's necessary for our collective healing as a species, and that it's necessary for all balance in this earth to be restored as we exist under exploitative, capitalistic, and extractive systems of culture, of power hoarding, of dis-ease, imbalance. And so that's what I mean when I say every breath is a collaboration. When you read that on my website, or if you hear it in one of my yoga classes, or maybe you hear it on this podcast, what does she mean? Every breath is a collaboration. What does she mean? Thank you to the trees. Thank you to the sky. Thank you to the earth. Thank you to the water. Thank you to the fire. What I mean is thank you. Thank you, because without you, nothing would be possible. And with you, everything is possible. So thank you, trees. Thank you, water. Thank you, earth. Thank you, air. Thank you, fire. Because my very heartbeat, my very breath, the gift of air in my lungs is a gift that was given to me and to you and to everyone else, was a gift given of community, of balance, of reciprocity and exchange. If you want to deepen your relationship to your breath, if you want to know what I mean by co-regulating with the trees, stay tuned for this month's root shock ritual. As y'all know, every month I'm posting rituals, meditations, breathing techniques, somatic practices to help you somatically digest and metabolize the things that we intellectually talk about here, so you can really bring them down as experiential things in your body. And this month's root shock ritual is going to be a co-regulation practice where we breathe with the trees. So cute, so amazing, huh? So stay tuned in 2 weeks for that ritual to drop. And if you want it a little sooner, you can subscribe to this project on Substack. I'll put it in the show notes, y'all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention, your awareness, your heart, your breath. Thank you. I'll catch you next time on Root Shock.